What up, you guys? We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast. We are using the Oracle of Oddities editions 1, 2, and 3. This is an out-of-print rare deck by Claire Goodchild. Her account on Instagram is called Black and the Moon. That's the name of her company. She has other decks, but this one was like a limited printing that I lucked out on years ago. So I use this with all of my one-on-one readings with my clients. I use this every week for myself, and I use this every week for us. So let's take a look and see what kind of energetic spiritual weather we have for the next 7 days. We have embrace. This came up, so every week I do my own weekly reading for myself on Sunday morning. Embrace came up for me as well. And I think that the universe is just asking us to embrace the moment that we're in now. I know that the last couple of years have been every level of a limbo. Every time we think that we're out of the limbo, it's just another dimension of the limbo. We're in between worlds and we're blue in the face, honestly, with it. We're ready to be in the next phase, right? But we're just not there yet. We are, having just left our last timeline. Hopefully all of our limbs and extremities made it over onto this current timeline and we're not straddling over in the past. Don't leave any of your horcruxes behind. Make sure all the soul is with you. We have been working so hard to gather up all the soul fragments, so don't stay attached to ghosts and regrets and things of the past that need to be left in the past. Today is Orthodox Easter. So today is the day that Christ arose and resurrected. And for us, that represents the old self that we put on the cross, that we let go, that we let die away, right? And we are redeemed by the sacrifice of Christ that opened up this portal for humankind to expand into higher realms of consciousness and heal our hearts and go into or be born into a more inclusive, accepting, loving, peaceful version of humanity on a personal level and on a large scale level. And so it's just like we're at the point in the journey where, and this is like a metaphor that came to me the other day and I thought it was very helpful. It's as if we have come into some success. Imagine yourself as this character, and you've been living in one small house for a while. And now, like, you've reached a level of success where you get to build your own mansion, right? And so over the last couple of years, it's like we've been in the process of working with the architect, getting the plans drawn up, gathering and choosing and curating just the right materials and hardware and fixtures to put in the house. And now we've been watching this house come into form over the last couple of years. And we've still been living in our old structure, but we've been getting excited about the expansion that's to come. And so it's like we're feeling the frustration of having outgrown the old, smaller, soul house, so to speak. And now we have this expansive potential lying ahead and we're anticipating it and we're really excited, but it's just not move-in ready yet. Now the phase we're at is like the contractors are putting the finishing touches on. The last few cosmetic touches need to be finished up. And then the crew needs to clean up all their work, right? They leave that chaos around, like leftover materials and packaging and stray nails and like Mountain Dew bottles and just garbage from the crew, right? They need to clean all that up and get everything pristine for us to move into that mansion. So that's the phase that I see us in right now, is like the contractors, our spirit team. They're like kind of helping arrange this next part of the journey. They're moving the parts and pieces to secure that next place that you're looking to move into, that next job, that promotion, the new friends that are coming into your life, or maybe you're about to meet your soulmate or something of that nature. And so there are other people involved in these scenarios and other variables. And so those variables kind of have to start being moved around and pushed into place. A great movie to watch that just completely portrays that whole spirit team idea like to perfection, in my opinion, is called The Adjustment Bureau. I only saw it one time, but I feel like it was like in the early 2000s. It has Matt Damon face, and I can't remember the female lead in it. And yeah, it just depicts that these people, unbeknownst to them, there's like this whole group of like these spiritual helpers that all wear these like little suits, and they're very indescript, and they're kind of moving around behind the scenes, and they're always like crossing through back alleys, and they always know shortcuts through buildings, and they're like trying to get ahead of the characters and like cause little like diversions and like detours for them to try to like get them on their path. And so I think that's kind of like the moment that we're in now. Now, the next phase, I know we're going to be like, can we just move in? And it's like, no, we don't want to move in all of our old garbage into a new, brand new, beautiful, designed, well thought out, architecturally digested mansion that we're moving into. So we've got to, choose our furnishings, and we've got to use discernment and take our time and be patient with that. So we're going to fill up this new life, but we don't want to hurry. We want to do it with intention, and we want to have meaning and criteria, that we kind of weigh things against, So the metaphor is that, and we are in a new timeline. We can already feel shifts happening, and we're starting to see the evidence of our life shifting and moving. Maybe you've even had a couple of surprise events occur that you weren't expecting. Or maybe you kind of made a sideways joke and you'd be like, oh my God, it would take a miracle for this to happen. And then it happened and you're like, wow. But I think that this is the moment where we're starting to actually see with our eyes what's been going on at an energetic, vibrational level for quite some time. So the best thing we can do is just embrace this moment. So last night in the Secret Teachings of Jesus video, the portion of Philip that we were talking about it had to do with slaves versus free people. And, in this world, slaves work for the free, but in the heavenly realms, in the heavenly kingdoms, the free people work for the slaves. And so what is a free person versus a slave? And so the slavery that we are bound to are the things in this world that have control over us, that keep us worked up, that keep us anxious, that we think that, we feel so out of control over, and they cause us fear and lack and insecurity. Like, is it going to work out? Is it not? Like, if we were completely liberated from that and we could accept, like, if it works out, great. That is the Creator's will, and that's going to bring us the most fulfillment. And if it doesn't work out, then great. The fact that it didn't work out is going to bring us way more fulfillment than had it worked out. A wonderful example of this, and it's so hard to embrace it in the moment because you can't see the full picture. You can't see the bird's eye view. There are things and aspects of scenarios that you just don't know about. So I used to work in TV, film, and video production as a freelancer, and I was not usually like on long running gigs. I would have to like book like gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs. So it was always like you're trying to fill up your month and you're trying to get every gig that you're applying for. And eventually, like, I got to a point in my career where even though I live in Nashville, so you can't be like super choosy about what you're working on all the time, and nor can anyone else. I mean, there's a lot of like high up people that have to do their fair share of unglamorous work to pay the bills. It's not all Wolf of Wall Street and you know, fun things to work on, right? So I was trying to get on this show, and I had already worked on a stint of the episodes that were being filmed in Nashville, and they were going to do some filming in Knoxville. And it was actually for one of those paranormal ghost hunting shows, which I kind of like, I'm into that. That's kind of fun. And so all the locations, though, for the show are kind of like a little bit run down buildings or abandoned buildings. And so I was really trying to get on the crew for Knoxville. And they had agreed to hire me, and they were excited about it. And we just hadn't done the paperwork yet. And the crew leaves to go back on hiatus for a week or so. And they were going to come back and fly back into town after they had an episode in San Francisco. But in the meantime, they had gone to film in San Francisco. I hadn't heard anything back about Knoxville yet. And then like the time came, and I had been touching base with them about getting paid from the first round of episodes. And as it turns out, the production manager and coordinator that had been on the show had been let go, and they'd been replaced with another 2 pair of people. Well, those people had hired someone else, another person, to work on the show that I was going to work on in Knoxville, because they didn't know about the hire. And I had found out through the person that got hired. They were like, oh, I'm actually working on that. I was like, oh, I was supposed to do that. But the management turned over. And so they're like, well, I'll let you know how it goes. So as it turned out, this particular show was cursed. And the Knoxville location was awful. It was like the worst, disgusting building. And the person on the crew that I had been talking to told me that at one point, the drop tile ceiling fell through, and it was a nest of snakes that came raining down from the ceiling. Rejection is God's protection. I don't think I would have ever recovered from the trauma of snakes raining down from the ceiling. Like never able to go outside of the house again. Agoraphobic forever after that. So thank God that I didn't get that gig. It would not have been worth the travel and the raining down snakes. Like, come on, right? So embrace whatever you find yourself in. Embrace it, because the thing is, like, in this world, pain is unavoidable, but suffering is a choice. And so what suffering is okay, we have the pain, and we can accept the pain, and we can let it run its course and do its thing and move through us. And we can accept the reality of the situation and the parts that we can't do anything about. It's like we're not going to fight against that, or we're not going to hold on to something and take it to the grave. You know, it's like you have to be able to let go and move on. My best friend, Trace, was killed in a tragic accident in his early 30s. This was several years ago. And there was a lot of mystery around how it happened. He was walking home late at night in Vail, Colorado. And so it was like in the mountains, in the woods, curvy roads, dark, party town. And so he was hit by a Jeep, but no one knows the details. They don't know whether he was in the Jeep and the Jeep rolled and he came out of the Jeep. They don't know whether he took the bus home that night and ended up walking, and he was hit while he was walking from the bus stop. But no one knows for sure what happened in this scenario. But they do know for sure that the Jeep driver had been drinking. Now, the family were obsessed over this detail, and it's understandable. And they wanted to find out what happened and who did it, and who's responsible, and was he in the car, and was he not? And they suffered over that, trying to find answers, trying to do right by Trace. But what I realized in that moment was the lesson of radical acceptance. Because I was looking at something so absolute that having an answer was the ultimate futility. It was so pointless. I can't bring Trace back. He's gone. He's dead as a doornail. It's irreversible. There's nothing we can do. This is a non-negotiable. So the faster we can accept the reality that this has happened and stop fighting it and stop trying to track someone down and ruin someone else's life. What are you going to do? Take the life of the person who's already probably going to punish themselves for the rest of their life? And like what? Send them to jail? Does that bring Trace back? No. Does that make me miss him any less? No. Does that make his absence in my life any easier to bear or accept? No. So that is what I'm saying about, like, you can choose to suffer or you can choose pain and let the suffering go. And part of that is just having that, at least at the level of acceptance of what the present moment is presenting. Now, this is not to say that we need to be complacent with life. When we see injustices, when we see that we need to speak up on behalf of the good, right? It's like those times we should not be complacent, right? But the serenity prayer is knowing the things that I can change and learning to accept the things that I can't, and having the wisdom to understand the difference. And so that's what I'm feeling in this card. It's also, that is like, we talk about certainty as a concept that is a sort of faith that is stronger than faith. Like emunah is the Hebrew word that means faith beyond reason, beyond like evidence, right? It's not logical. It's transcendent of logical. Like we know the logic, we're not denying the logic, but we're transcending the logic. It's like post-logic. Certainty is when you don't have the answers, but like we're saying, it's like you trust that God can work through any situation. And you have some level of understanding that the fear and the challenge is kind of being put there as like an initiation and a test and like a simulation, just to train you to have that certainty where you can be like, okay, well, I know if I'm staying calm and I'm trusting that the creator can come into the situation and move through it, then we might actually be exalted in this situation rather than thwarted, right? It's that powerful. And so it's like a choice. It's like you can sit there and be trembling and in fear and in complete doubt. And you're like, you want to run and you want to hide under a rock. But the choice you make can be, I'm going to choose in the midst of my fear, no matter what my feelings are, no matter what my brain is filling me with like thoughts of doom and catastrophe. I have a choice still, and I can choose from my heart and soul. And I can separate myself from the being that my ego is. And I can say, okay, you know what? I know how I feel as a human being, but I'm going to step into my divinity right now and choose certainty. I can circle that on the multiple choice test. Even if I don't feel the feelings, even if I don't think that way, I can choose it and choose to act in accordance to that certainty, not in reaction to my fear and emotional response. So that is certainty. And I keep meaning to talk about this, but I love talking about my shows that I love watching. And right now I am obsessed with The Chosen. And so it's kind of hard to find. Like I have Roku, and so The Chosen, you can watch season 1 on Netflix, which is the easiest way to watch it. After that, like Angel Studios app, you can watch up to season 3 on that, but Angel Studios app is like garbage. It is so like glitchy that like I have a meltdown watching it. So what I did was I don't know what kind of like streaming device you have, but go just to the homepage where all your apps are shown, where you're outside of everything. You can see like Amazon, Netflix, HBO. You haven't like gone into any of them yet. And just go to the search bar and choose The Chosen. And then you can even scroll down under where it says like add channels. You can even go under that search bar and it will show you where you can find all the ways that you can stream it. And so the CW, I think, has them streaming, and they're easy to watch. You just have to like watch a commercial every now and then. So, but I highly recommend it. But The Chosen, if you don't know what The Chosen is a narrative series that is about Jesus when he first like began, like the moment where it was like, okay, I guess this is this thing that I'm starting now. And he hadn't met any of the disciples yet. So The Chosen is about him accumulating and meeting his disciples and how they all met, how they all got together, and the realistic depiction of what it would be like to set out on the road as like a preacher in that time, and like what that looked like as a platform, as like a business, or as like an attempt to like take a ministry out to the people, and all the logistical issues and all of the emotional issues. And what is amazing to me, I love this depiction of Jesus because it's not like precious Jesus, and it's not like I'm so holy and look at me, I've got the angel eyes Jesus. It's like real dude Jesus, like your bro, Jesus your bro, like Jesus your best friend. I would marry this Jesus. I'm like obsessed. I'm like, can I marry this actor? And like, but I'm like projecting the Christness on him. But like, it's like Jesus as a person who would get a little irritated at times, and who had like exhaustion, physical exhaustion, and like who needed time alone, and like no one would ever like let him have time alone. And like, you know, Jesus needed to prepare for the big sermon. He's like trying to work out the sermon. And it's like, I never thought about Jesus trying to write out a sermon and like trying to like, you know, work it out so that it flows, you know, and like then having to like organize the event. And like, that's what the disciples were doing, right? So meanwhile, all these things are happening around this group. Like there's all this intrigue, like Jesus is like at risk of getting arrested. He actually does get arrested at one point. Everybody's like, oh my God, Jesus, like we've been so worried. Why didn't you tell us you were back from jail? And he's like, I told y'all to keep praying. Like we needed all this preparation. I went to prepare for tomorrow. Like, is everything ready? And they're like, no, we stopped. We were worried sick. And he's like, you can't shut down every time something happens. You got to keep going. He's like, I told you I'd be back. So like what I love about certainty as depicted through this Jesus is that you can see him trying to work it out sometimes too. But he's just like, you know what? No, like he's calm. He's not arrogant. He's not forceful, but he's got strong boundaries. He's not asking permission. Like he is certain and sure. He's not like wishy-washy or like asking everybody else what they think. It's like, he's just like, no, I'm decisive. I've got the guidance. Let's just do this. We're going to be fine. We're going to do it, you know? And it's like the subtlety of his quiet confidence and leadership. And even in the midst of his human moments, the way he was able to choose through them, that to me is like the illustration of certainty, that level of faith where it's a choice. And we don't have to feel it. You can fake it till you make it, you know? Okay. It's like a wig, right? You can choose to put on a wig. And it's not, even though it's not your real hair. It's like that. Certainty is like a wig. You can just choose to put it on. All right. And nobody ever said it had to be your real hair, right? Okay. So what now? This is 24 minutes in on one card. We'll try to like be brief for the rest. All right. Oh, humanity. Okay. So embracing this moment, whatever moment you find yourself in, it's bigger than you. And this is serving to prepare you to be a vessel on behalf of your greater purpose that serves the Creator, that gives you something special to share with others, and something about you and your perspective or your talent or your gift that you offer that you have to share with humanity. And so we need to put our focus, instead of us and how this is affecting us, or this is going to be successful for us, or how this is going to be, it's not bad to wonder if, like, for instance, your business is going to be a success and it's going to feed you. But that consciousness and that focal point will get you tired and worried and weary, and it will deplete you of your energy because it's self-centered. Not like, oh, you're awful and you're self-centered, but it is centered on the self. Whereas if we set our attention and consciousness on the greater why of why we're doing something, of the reason why we wanted to create and present this thing to the world, right? All the people that we will help, the good that it will share with the world. Maybe it will bring healing to people or the planet or animals, right? What service is this to others? Because as spiritual students, our aim and our goal is to make ourselves more like the light. And the term that we use is to build the vessel, to prepare the vessel. And so we want to prepare the vessel. We want to become a vessel of sharing, right? And we want to be a vessel that wants to receive for the sake of sharing, rather than solely receiving for the self alone. Now, literally, that, for an example, I love learning about self-help and personal development and healing and anything that has to do with it. I love spirituality. I love theology and things. I love relationship books. I love learning how people tick. I love people's psychology. I love people's souls. I love everything. This started as an absolute need to heal myself, because there was a time in my life where I was so distressed and laden with fear and anxiety and pain that accumulated through my childhood, from just being in a family with a lot of crisis and a lot of intensity and a lot of dysfunction that not everyone has in their household. And so there was so much of it inside of me. I was so angry and so chaotic that my life was just full of chaos. And I wasn't even like a destructive, rebellious person. It was just like vibrationally, I was just always in some kind of like ailment or obstacle going on in my life, or surrounded by people who were bringing even more chaos in. And so I was so angry and so depressed and so like frustrated, and just felt like I would go insane if my life didn't get better. And I couldn't even imagine feeling joy from an unknown source. It had to be prompted through a physical vessel to me. I couldn't imagine spontaneous joy for no reason. And so I remember having a Post-it that I wrote out and put on my vanity, on my mirror. And it was a goal. And it was like, I dream of one day having joy for no reason. And now, sometimes I wake up and I'm just like dancing and skipping through the house and joking around with myself and laughing and like a crazy person and loving every minute of it. And I feel that now, but I didn't feel it then, and I couldn't imagine what it would be like to feel that then, but it was a dream, and I believed that it could be possible if I did the work and I did the healing. And every shovelful of shit that I was able to offload out of myself and lighten up made me want to help others do the same. And it was so weird because I started feeling less and less passion about pursuing my career in film. And I started spending so much time just listening to webinars and those telethon calls that they used to do before, Zoom was such a thing. And I would listen to all of these self-help practitioners and new age healers and all of these energy and light workers. And I would get into, the mystery school teachings and all of those things. And I just became obsessed, and I was just like, am I being irresponsible doing this? Like, I just felt like there was so much more to give humanity through spiritual teaching than I could ever deliver through filmmaking, because I'd wanted to be a filmmaker. And I always thought growing up how influential actors and filmmakers were, how they could really portray a story and get people thinking and change their mind about things and help them become aware of problems in the world and get them enthusiastic about helping people and helping others. And then I realized that there was a much more efficient way to do that didn't require me writing scripts and finding funding and hopefully getting, a casting and having it made. I could just make a video and get straight to the point, because the point was to be able to serve humanity. And it wasn't just about my film career anymore and the accolades and the red carpets and the glamorous evening gowns. And y'all know me, I love an outfit, but I can do that on my channel, right? And I can do it helping others. And not that you can't help others. I mean, my God, Lady Gaga has inspired me in so many ways and helped me in so many ways. Meryl Streep, God love her. She's a saint, right? But for me, it just felt like this lit me up, and it gave me a greater vessel to share. And it wasn't that I couldn't also benefit from it. But it became more about that. And so that fills me up. And when I focus too much on the fact that like the channel doesn't really have as much growth as I would like, I get depleted, I get tired, I get frustrated. But when I get excited about coming on and sharing insights and, helping others find joy and peace and inner healing and just serenity and, just letting the battle inside dwindle down, is enough. That excites me, right? So connect with whatever it is, your big why that helps you help humanity. And I think that is going to give us so much momentum and so much more energy. Because, I think that the new human normal is just to feel like you're about to be burnt out, honestly. So it's like we have to figure out a way to generate more energy, sustain and maintain the energy that we have, and learn how not to be leaking it out. Okay, let's get another card. What else do we need to be focused on this week? What are our influences? We are embracing the moment. We are doing our best to share with humanity, and we are building with passion. Nothing in this world moves without desire. Desire is the seed level of any manifestation of anything, any action that is taken, right? If you want something to eat, you got to get up and go make something to eat. And sometimes, unless I'm like super hungry, I'll just keep powering through. So the desire has to be there in order to inspire you to take the action, right? So it's about keeping that passion alive in our heart and keeping the fire going. And that's an art, right? Like so many things in this world, like humankind, like we don't have the patience that a few generations ago had. It's like we want quick results, and we get, the results, and then we don't have that lasting fulfillment. We don't know how to keep the passion in our relationships and in our work, in our interests. So it becomes an art that we learn how to tend to that fire. It's like a fire, right? And if you ignore the fire, you'll burn through your wood and the fire will go out. So you have to tend to it. And what makes a great fire, especially if you're going to cook or anything with it, is to get those hot embers going. When, the fire's first raging, there's not a lot of heat that's built up yet. It's when the first kind of pile of wood goes down and you start building more wood on top of that. But it's those embers at the bottom that are really generating and building all that heat. And so the same is true for the heart and for that fire and enthusiasm. It's like, yeah, we have initial like moments where we put the logs on the fire and the flames are big and they're raging and everybody's dancing around the flames and let's get the marshmallows going. But it's really that smoldering heat that lasts and goes on and on and on that we kind of just put that poker in, right? That's what we have to work with most of the time. You can't cook on those big out of control flames, right? So yes, there are moments where we have a lot of excitement and a lot of momentum and a lot of motivation and we're inspired. But inspiration is for amateurs because that is a flash in the pan. It is a lightning bug. It is there and gone. And yeah, it comes here and there every now and then, but you can't wait to be inspired. You have to be professional and you have to sit down and do the work every day and show up for it. And even like say you're a writer, right? You got to sit down and look at that blank page for an hour. And even if you don't write one word, you are sitting there with that blank page for an hour and that is your space to be in. And so that is part of that, keeping that passion alive. It's like connecting with it on a daily basis and showing up to your thing no matter what and put your focus on how you're sharing with humanity and the greater effect that you're having like at a legacy level, not just about what's in it for you. And that keeps your passion alive. All right, one last card. Oh, I love this. Yay. I always consider this like a manifestation card. There's an actual manifestation card on this deck, but this is when things start to come into fruition. That your ideas have grown and sprouted into something real, and you are speaking and naming and claiming the abundance that is coming. Like it's like you're almost choking on the amount of like value and riches and treasures that you are creating through your words. And that you are speaking blessings onto your life. And that is beginning to physicalize. So I see this as that creator, that divine creator energy, where we know that when we have an idea that springs from that spark that springs from nothing is solidified into a visualization in our mind that we can then articulate with our words. And when we speak, that is a magical act of creation. So there are 4 living kingdoms according to Kabbalah. There's the mineral kingdom, which is the inanimate kingdom. There's the plant kingdom. There is the animal kingdom. And there is the speaking kingdom. These kingdoms are classified in accordance. They are as evolved as their level of desire. The inanimate objects have very little desire. They don't move. They don't do anything. They don't need anything. They don't need to consume. They just are. So they have 0 desire. The plants have a desire for the sunlight. So they lean towards the sun. They do move. Plants move. They want water. They will reach for their water. They need other things and they will send each other things and they will communicate. So they have a higher consciousness because they have more desire than the mineral kingdom. Animals have even more desire. They move quicker. They move around more. They want affection. They have more human-like desires. They want comfort. They want affection. They want food, water. They want their basic needs, but they also have like emotional comfort needs that they want too. But animals can't communicate with the creator. They can't choose with free will right and wrong, and like they don't know the spiritual consequences. They're just basically on instinct. And then there's the speaking kingdom. We have the most desire. So we have the highest consciousness, and we can speak and we can move around, and we have thumbs, and what we share in common with the creator. We're not just called the human kingdom, we're called the speaking kingdom, because we are the kingdom that can take our thoughts and our feelings and our philosophies and verbalize them. So we can take a spark, an idea, and actually speak it into being. And literally, we have that creator energy to take our words and they become manifest, right? That's the first physicalization of something from nothing. It's like, if you can take an idea that was nothing, came into your mind, it became a visualization, an ephemera, and then you can speak it out. That is the first physicalization of that thing in this space of reality. You just pulled it from the void. Isn't that crazy when you break it down like that? So bringing it all through, naming and claiming it, right? Speak blessings onto your life. Speak life into your blessings. Speak life into the efforts that you're putting your hand to. Speak your gratitude out loud to the creator. It is said that if we want to shroud ourselves in protection, to speak of the glory of God. So if you are talking about how great God is with someone, you are protected in that moment. So if you get into a hairy situation, like say, I don't know, you find yourself on a boat in a storm or something, or, you're in some sort of weird, I don't know, scary scenario where you don't know how things are going to go, start talking about how great the creator is. Start talking about how great God is and all these awesome things about God. And maybe the situation will start working itself out. But yeah, if you're taking shelter from a tornado, for instance, those can come up fast and you don't know what's going to happen. And so things can shift, right? Tornadoes are fast moving. So try next time if you have to take cover from a tornado, as a safety measure, talk about the glory and the greatness of God. All right, you guys, we had embrace, humanity, passion, and earth. Tomorrow we will be back for our weekly anchor message, where we will be getting our spiritual assignments for the week to see what we're going to be kind of focusing in on. All right, y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.